Hey guys, TG coming to you with another video. This is gonna be my Katakuri Treasure Cup deck list. I went 8-2. I'm gonna do the same thing we did with a smoker video. I'm gonna go top to bottom, talk about why I chose what I chose, the ratios, and then at the end of the video I'll talk about my matchups and even answer some questions. So let's go ahead and start. Katakuri, self-explanatory. Put one down on him, make him 7k by looking at your life or your opponent's life. 9 times out of 10 you're gonna look at your life, especially against with the online rulings. Next is gonna be 3 10 drops. So this could be the main thing, I guess. Most people run 4. The reason I dropped it to 3, and I think 3 is actually gonna be the number to go with if you're gonna play Katakuri in these regionals and treasure cups, is because the 10 drop is not as good against the Zoro and Whitebeard. Zoro and Whitebeard are gonna be the top decks that you want to play against. But you still need the 10 drops against the yellow and black, so that's why I think 3 is enough. With Zoro, the 10 drops, when you do play her to win, is, in my opinion, you're going to win without the 10 drop. So it's more like a win more card other than securing the win. And then with Whitebeard, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be at 0 life before you drop your 10 drop, unless they see that 1 of 9 drop Whitebeard, or you do shenanigans with your Katakuri. And it's also a slower card, so by the time you play her, it's not as good. So I don't think the 10 drop is justified to play against the Whitebeard. Not saying that it won't come up, but most of the time it won't. So that's the reason, because of those two matchups, the 10 drop not being as useful. That's why I dropped it to 3. After the 10 drop, it's going to be the main MVP of the deck, which is 4 Katakuris. Well, not the main card, but he's up there. I think the reason I bumped it up to 4 was because I feel like he's way more useful in the Zoro and the Whitebeard matchup, especially the Zoro matchup. I'm talking about like the 8 drops making you win that matchup very easily, just because you can bounce your Parasparrow and Cracker to the top of life, making have you 1 extra life, have an 8k body on the board, able to use your 5 dropped your 5 power guy, either Parasparrow or Cracker, to swing and control the board, and then having an extra life, so when they swing at you, you bring them back out and you repeat the process, is very strong. So that's how strong Katakuri is in that matchup against the Whitebeard. You're talking about just put a vanilla back to your top of life. They're gonna grab it back later, and it's a 1k counter. So you relieve the pressure. You have an 8k body, and you can start controlling their board, and then repeat the process. If they play them again, you drop another Katakuri. You're doing very strong against the Whitebeard matchup. Unfortunately, you have to go second usually to feel good about it. But I feel like it's more useful than the 10 drop in those two matchups. Now, and of course, Katakuri is still strong against the Kinemon matchup, because you can put the Odin to a top of life, the Kid matchup, putting the 7 drop blockers. Your own cards, you can put your Shirahoshi to the top of life, get more draw power, and against the yellow matchup as well. So that's why I feel like 4 Katakuri is definitely justified. But I think at least 3 in this meta is must have. Because of these bumps, I went ahead and dropped the 7 drop down to 1. The 7 drop, on play, you can either, your opponent will choose to either make you gain a life or they lose a life. Very strong on curve against most decks except for Whitebeard. That's the reason I dropped her to 1. I just feel like with the Whitebeard matchup, she wasn't as useful compared to Katakuri. But hindsight now, maybe I'll bump her up back to 2, and then maybe just drop the Katakuri down to 3, just because how good she is against every other matchups. And sometimes it becomes relevant, but as you guys know, if your opponent has 0 life, when you play her, they can choose to lose a life when they're at 0 life, making this card more useless, especially against the Whitebeard, and that's the main reason why I dropped her to 1. And also, another thing is, because if you go first and you want to play her on curve, then you're not doing anything that turn, because all your little guys, except for the vanillas, can't poke without Dawn. So by using her on curve on 7, when you go first, you're basically just passing turn to the Whitebeard to add more pressure against you. So that's why I was so iffy about her. But we'll see. I think maybe a 2 of it will be fine, especially if you go second. But if you go first, it just becomes hard against a Whitebeard. But other than that, very strong card against every other matchups. Next is going to be for Graceful Charities, also known as Shirahoshi. Very strong. I think a 4, maybe a 3 if you really want to counter down to add something else. But I think 4 is, in my opinion, very good. Especially because if she hits trigger, you're basically winning the game. I mean, especially, and then also because you have 4 Katakuris, then you can do the combo where they hit life, you Graceful Charity, you can counter out, you play Katakuri, put her back on top of life, and then you repeat the process. Unfortunately, out of the 10 rounds, I only had her 1 time in life, but that's with 4 of. Imagine if I had 3, maybe it would be 0. And then she's also good because then you can swing over Makinos and Momonosuke, so it also becomes somewhat useful. And then sometimes you actually have to play her to unclog your hand and just drop her from hand, so which I did 1 game as well. So either way, just her variability and allowing you to draw 3, discard 2 is just so useful in yellow. So that, and she's a trigger, so I think she's a must. At least 3 I recommend 4. Next is 1 Rush Katakuri. Unplayed, you get to do the same thing as your leader. Look at your top life or your opponent's life and put it top or bottom. But if you have less left in your opponent, he can rush, and he's a 4/6, so very strong against Whitebeard. This guy maybe win 1 game just because I need an extra attack, and I was able to get his rush off. So because of that, I will recommend keeping him 1. I see some people put him at 2 to 3. Some people play none. I think either none to 1 is the number. The problem is if you run more of him, he's a non-counter, so he could get cloggy. And to get his rusher effect is so situational. I mean, yeah, you can mess around with the Katakuris and Thunderbolts to make the effect to actually pop off, but 9 times out of 10 it's just luck. So, and it's not guaranteed, especially if your boy has 0 life. You know, now your Thunderbolts are useless, and then he doesn't get the rush, so then he's a non-counter at hand. So that's why I think 1 of is plenty. You can search him with your Parasparrows or Pudding, so you will see him when you need to see him. So that's why I think keeping him 1 just to have that maybe rush card that you might pull off is definitely useful. With that, I go ahead and play 4 Vanillas. So same thing with this Katakuri. If you don't get the rush off, then he just becomes a Vanilla. So it's like you're running 5 Vanillas technically, just because you can't guarantee his rush effect. So that's why some people argue to put 2 rush Katakuris because it's the same stat lines, just no counter. So just in case they do pop off. So that's also something you want to look at. If not, then you want to just go ahead either run 5 Vanillas or 4 Vanillas, just because if you feel like you need that extra counter. Like I said, I think the 4-1 is good. My backup would be 3-2, but the counters do become useful, so that's why I chose 4-1. So just went ahead and played them out here. This deck, this cards of just the 4/6 stat is so important in this meta because of the Whitebeard. Going back to what basically why I didn't like Charlie Linden is because if you go first, you won't play these guys on curve. You're gonna play them on your 3rd turn when you have 5 Dawn, and that means you can only swing against the Whitebeards and Whitebeard cards because most of their cards, unless they swing with their Izo, they're gonna have Vanillas that are 6k attackers or higher. So that means your 3-drop or less are not gonna hit it without Dawn. Your Katakuri is not gonna hit it without Dawn. So by having these Vanillas, you can at least poke them down, either their leader or their character card, without Dawn. And that, just that alone, is what makes this deck even playable against the Whitebeard. If you do not have these Vanillas, the matchup becomes much, much harder. It's already hard enough because they went ahead and put blockers. So that's why it's very important to have this stat line. Especially if you go second, it becomes much, much easier. But because you go first, you can't guarantee going second all the time. You still need them. And that's why I think having 5 to even 6 of a 4/6 is so important in this meta right now. But that's my opinion. Next is going to be your staples. It's going to be your 4 crackers and your 4 Sparrows. Nothing much to say here other than their triggers. They're going to help you come back with the game, especially against the Zoro matchups. He's a double attacker if you're less than life. He's a searcher if he dies. So broken. And like I said, this is where I do the Katakuri combo. They attack, he comes out, I trash a card, I swing next turn, and then bring out Katakuri, put him back on top, and repeat the process. That's what you do against the Zoro matchup. So good. And against any other matchup, if you hit trigger, it just makes the Katakuri deck much, much stronger. It goes from an A tier deck to even an A plus S minus tier if you hit all these triggers. Of course, you can't guarantee that, but by having, right now, you have 12 triggers on life. That you can possibly get in life, it just the chances become high that you're at least gonna see 2 triggers every game. So I think it's a must-have. After that, it's gonna be 4 brulees, making your trigger counts now to 16. Brulees, I mean, self-explanatory, right? It's a trigger blocker. It changes games. Times how many times people have won when they have 1 life left. The opponent counter cards, put their Dawn efficiency, they go in, and boom, Brule comes out, and now they can't win, because even if they try to Marco it or answer it, they won't have enough Dawn to end the game then. So Brule, a very broken card, very strong, and against the Yellow Mirror, it just becomes even more broken, because whoever sees the Brules on time against the Yellow Mirror usually is the winner. Of course, you can also argue whoever sees more 10 drops, but the Brules do play a part. So, because of that, I went ahead and did a tech. So, I put 2 Galettes. So, Galettes here are just a 2-drop blocker, same thing a Whitebeard put against Yellow. Because everybody knows to beat Yellow, you need blockers. Yellow cannot remove blockers. They don't have an efficient way to remove blockers. So, by you having blockers, you can basically stall enough to then end the game. And that's the reason Whitebeard has a winning matchup against Yellow, in my opinion. Not only that they have strong bodies out that you can fight back to control each other, they run little blockers that you can't touch. While they can Marco it. They run Fire Fist, they can Fire Fist it. They can do multiple things to your little blockers, causing their big hitters to hit, especially they have Rush Luffy, they put Dawn on it, it's unblockable, they have the 9-drop Whitebeard out, etc., etc. You can't. You cannot do anything other than Thunderbolt and Katakuri it. So then, when I play against a Yellow Mirror, I try to focus on having my blockers out, and then just poke, and then go for my big guys later, and then I just win the game from there. So that's the reason, because of the Yellow Mirror, I went ahead and added, just have 6 blockers, just because that's how strong it is against the Yellow matchup right now. Other than that, let's go ahead to the 12 2Ks. Nothing to explain here other than you must run the 12 2Ks. Very important against the Whitebeard. And I guess every deck, right? The 2Ks are just very strong. Having 12, I think, is a must in this meta. So nothing changed here, especially with your Strusen, so you can get rid of the Shopper blocker when you're going to go for game. Next will be your Searcher Pudding, 4 of. You're hitting, I think there's only 11 cards that are non-target roll, right? So the 3 Puddings itself, the 4 2Ks, and the Shirahoshi, so that's 11 cards. So I've never seen Pudding whiff yet, so not saying that's not possible, because there is 11 targets that you can't hit, but I've never seen it yet. So definitely a must-have 4 of, very strong, especially when you go first. And then your last thing is Thunderbolt. Going back to the point of that you can't get rid of blockers, this is your only removal, and then your Katakuri is your second removal to the blockers. But knowing that Thunderbolt is the best way, of course, if this hits at life, even more broken. But you want to basically just see 1 in hand, and then just keep it all game unless you have 0 life. Once you're at 0 life, then remove it. Because if you had 0 life, you cannot use its effect, unfortunately. So because of that, what I do, so I try to see 1 Thunderbolt the game, and then I just hold it until I need it, which I try to do it towards the end of the game to finish off. Now, if I'm playing against Black, I'll probably use it against Kuzan, the 4-drop, And if I'm playing against green and they play their banished Yamato, then I'll definitely use it for the banished Yamato. So those are the two exceptions why I would use it early. So I think that's from those reasons alone. I think 3 is a perfect number. If you don't run none of these, then I don't know how you're gonna win against those blockers. But this has won me a lot of games just so I can get rid of the blockers towards the end and then go for game with my big bodies. And that is the deck list, guys. So I already told you the one card I'll switch here is dropping this to 3, bumping this up to 2. But other than that switch, I think I won't make any other changes. I think the deck runs very well, and I'm very happy how it did. Now remember, this is pre Yamato structure deck, so definitely the 5-drop vanillas are gonna come and play to this Katakuri build in the future. And maybe there could be even other cards that will come in. Just you want to be careful if you add too much of the Yamato cards, like the 1-drop event card or even the 5-drop vanillas, that they're not Big Mom Pirates. So you're already at 11 non-targetable, so there's a chance that you can start whiffing. So just be careful for those who are gonna update the yellow deck. So other than that, let's go ahead and go to matchups. So in the 10 rounds, I played against Kid Film the first round. With Kid Film, I do the same thing I do with Law. I don't attack their life until I have a complete board and I have advantage. I just focus on clearing their board and then playing my big boys later. Second round was a Katakuri matchup, and because of my Galette blocker, I had a good matchup against it. What I do against the mirror is I try to keep my blockers to the end game because I know yellow can't get rid of it. If they get rid of it, Thunderbolt, better for me. With Katakuri, when I swing against the other Katakuri, I always look at your opponent's life to make sure that you don't hit a trigger in the beginning, because whoever hits the most triggers in the beginning in the mirror match is probably going to win. So that's what I do there. And yeah, and then that's it. You just play normal yellow stuff. You Katakuri when you need to Katakuri, you 10-drop when you need to 10-drop, and then you just focus on getting rid of the blockers if you're going to go for game. The third round was against Zoro. That was my first loss, even though I feel like yellow has a very strong matchup against the Zoro, like I mentioned before. I miscalculated my Dawn management, and that's why I lost, because I lost by 1k counter, and I just realized I could have actually probably won the game. Unfortunately, I did mess up there. So what I did is he had a blocker, so I had to clear the blocker with Thunderbolt. I swung with 7k Parasparrow, 5k 5 on the Katakuri, swinging with 13, and then 7k with this Katakuri, and then he dropped his whole hand to block everything. What I should have done was probably do 9, 11. What was it? I was supposed to do 9. Yeah, just 9, 11, and then 8. And I think I would have actually got it, unfortunately, with that mat. But, hindsight's 2020. So he did out counter, used his whole hand to counter me, and then went for game next turn. So that's how I lost in my third round. Fourth round was against Whitebeard. Won against Whitebeard, going second. Like I said, the vanilla, so he was very strong in that matchup. And then I did the Katakuri, the stuff that I told you what to do against the Whitebeard matchup. But it's still a close match. I mean, I'm talking about every time I play against Whitebeard, we're down to the wire where I either had to finish him off this turn or he beats me next turn. That's usually what happened. Fifth round was against Law? I think it was Law. I played Law around 5th or 6th round. No, I think it was 5th round Zoro again. Beat Zoro with the same thing I told you. You Katakuri your Parasparrows, put it on top of life, comes out, and then you repeat the process. Beat Zoro there. 6th round was Law. Beat Law. He just swung, hit a Thunderbolt, got rid of their board, and then I just kept establishing board to then win the game. Law does have a good matchup as Katakuri, so that's all you do is you focus on making board, and then once you have your board out, then you can start poking and obviously focus on their guys if they do leave a guy rested, which 9 times out of 10 they shouldn't. 7th round was against Whitebeard. That should be my 3rd Whitebeard. Yep. No. That was my 2nd Whitebeard. Yeah. So then Whitebeard again. This one was basically luck. I bricked and he bricked. We both bricked. I just had a better brick because my triggers came through, and so I was able to pressure him when he was bricked out. So nothing much to say. I just got lucky there. 8th round was Whitebeard again. That one was again very close. I just got lucky towards the end because of my rusher Katakuri. Was able to swing out, and then he had 2 blockers. I was able to thunderbolt one at Katakuri, and then just started swinging. He had to use his second blocker, and then I just went for game. 9th round was Zoro again. Beat Zoro. Self-explanatory. And then 10th round, I went to it 8-1 versus a pair down that was 7-2, unfortunately, for me. So he beat me. He was Whitebeard, and I just went same thing again. Like every Whitebeard always ends up with playing 2 to 3 blockers at the last turn. So then when you go for game, you have to go through blockers that you can't do anything about except for maybe popping one with Thunderbolt, and then go through their hand, right? So that's usually how the Whitebeard matchup always ends, where they just start dropping their blockers at the very end. So I had to go through the blockers, went through the blockers, and then he had a Radical Beam and 2 guard points, so he was able to counter out my last attack. So then he beat me in the final turn. Definitely, again, a very close match against the Whitebeards. Always a close match. Unfortunately, that time I did not get it, but because he was a pair down, it dropped me all the way down to 38th place. And that's why I didn't even top 32, unfortunately. So going back to what I said with the smokers, if you do lose 2, like he was 8-2, and because he won a pair up, he was top 13, I think he got, with my same record. So because his only 2 losses, which was not me, was towards the end. I think he said he lost round 7, round 8. While my loss, even though my last loss was round 10, my first loss was round 3, and that's what got me so behind, and that's why I played against a pair down. Because if my losses were better, I probably would have been matched up with another 8-1. So my loss will only be to a 9-1er and then maybe a 8-2er guy. So then I would have definitely maybe even top 16, but definitely top 32. So now the tip is, going back, you can lose 2, but those both losses have to be late game. It can't be one early and one late, apparently. Just found that out. So letting you guys know. Okay, yeah, so other than that, I went through what I would change with the deck. I went through the matchups. So the question was, how does Katakuri match up against Smoker? This just has to do with the Smoker deck list from the last video, and since this is Katakuri deck list, it kind of works out since it's asking to face against Katakuri, so I'll do it against both aspects. So if you're Katakuri versus Smoker, the way the Smoker player, there's 2 ways the Smoker player will win. Of course, you have the basic way, which is just poke all the way down so that the yellow player has 1 to no life, so when they 10 drop, it becomes useless. And they can pop your blocker, so there's no point of blocking, and most people don't run the Ikuku Sovereignty, so then you just go and swing with big bodies and go for game, right? I don't like that strategy when I play with Smoker. What I do when I play with Smoker is I try to focus on having my 4-drop Kuzans out. Try to have 2 out before their 8-drop comes out, because then you can start controlling the board with Kobe, Garp, and Sakazuki. Most Smokers deck lists don't have the 10 drops no more because of the instant loss against Zoro, but Whitebeard did come back, so maybe there's an argument to play 1 10 drop. But then again, you don't want to get it stuck against the Zoro, so it's hard to say, and you can't search it with brand new. So I still assume that the Smoker deck list won't run the 10 drops. So if you don't run the 10 drops, that's why the 4-drop Kuzans are more important. If the Smoker deck list is running 10 drop, then the yellow player needs to win before that 10 drop comes, or have a better board control before the 10 drop comes. Because if the 10 drop comes before, then you're basically just losing the match, in my opinion. So flipping sides to Smoker. Oh no, let me keep going. So what I do with yellow is when I see that 4-drop Kuzan, I thunderbolt it right away. your boy's thunderbolting those Kuzans instantly. I'm Katakuring those 4-drop Kuzans, because if not, those 4-drop Kuzans is why I will lose. Because that's how I beat yellow when I play Smoker. When I play Smoker, the whole point is I don't really attack life, because I really don't want no triggers to hit. Maybe I'll poke 1 or twice. And it depends when I poke. 9 times out of 10, I really don't want to poke early, because I want to have nice control. Because if they start poking me down very early, it can pressurize me too much. Now, if a Smoker player runs, like in my deck list, I ran 10 blockers. If I see 3 blockers in hand, then I'm poking them down, because then I want them to attack my life, because then I have a bigger hand. I'm able to control the board better, and their 10 drops and 7 drops become more useless when I have no life. So, depending on what I see, if I see blockers, I will poke. If I don't see blockers, I will just focus on getting my at least 2 4-drop Kuzans out. The reason 2 is because I expect the yellow player to pop one of them or Katakuri one of them. So as long as one lives, then I just win the game by then controlling the board with the 4-drop Kuzan, with Kobe. Because look, you swing with Kuzan at life with 5. He brings something out or he misses trigger. Doesn't matter. You minus his 4 to the 7-drop Big Mom, you can Kobe in. You minus the 4 to the Katakuri, you can then use your Smoker's ability, you can Kobe it. You can garp both of those without your Smoker's ability. In the late game, when they have the 10-drop finally comes out, and remember, you have little blockers, so they can't get rid of this Kuzan, because you have blockers and you have a lot of hand because you took all these hits. So if they do have 2 cost Katakuri, you get rid of one of them, the other one will not be able to get rid of the Kuzan, so you protect this Kuzan with your life. So, if they bring out the 10-drop and you have the 4-drop Kuzans out, not only that you're pressuring the board, pressuring your opponent's life with the 5k swing, you then minus 4 to the Linlan, then you activate Smoker's ability, make it a 5 cost. Now you can get Sakazuki. If you have 2 4-drop Kuzans out, this can get Meteor Volcano with your Smoker's ability, because it goes down to 1 cost. You know what I'm saying? So just playing around the 4-drop Kuzan is what you need to do against a yellow player. And then as the yellow player, the caveat is all you have to do is answer the 4-drop Kuzans, and then keep focusing on life. Of course, there's more variables to that, right? There's still the Sakazukis you gotta worry about. If they do play the 10-drop you have to worry about. The 8-drop Isho you have to worry about. So there's other variables that you have to play against the Smoker. But the main threat is those 4-drop Kuzans that you can answer. If they Isho you, just remember to stay less than 6 cards in hand by countering out as much as you can. And then you Katakuri the Isho, right? So, because if not the Isho itself, it's the backup to the 4-drop Kuzans, because then the Isho can cause -3. So then now your 7-drop and your 8 drops are in range to get popped. The good thing is the Isho cannot answer the Limon, because -3 only makes it go to 7. And even with the Smoker ability, it makes it go to 6. So then now they have to drop more cards to answer the Limon with the Isho. Unless they have 2 Ishos out. But that now we're playing more miracles at that point, because if they're bringing 2 Ishos out against you as a yellow player and they're not losing, then something wrong is happening, right? So anyways, going back to it. So 4-drop Kuzans are the main priority on both sides, right? For the Smoker and Lucci Navy to win. And then for yellow players to win, just answer them. And if they don't see them in game, then the strategy would change to the Smoker trying to get you down to low life before the yellow players bring out their big boys. When the 7-drop comes out, I usually, if they play on curve the 7-drop, depending on the board state, I will usually lose a life instead of making them gain a life. And yeah, hopefully that answered the question. So that's the black versus yellow, especially when it's more navy. If it's CP9 version, then the CP9 yellow has the advantage, I think, in my point of view. That's why I think the navy is so good against yellow, because you have the 4-drop Kuzans and stuff. Now, if you have a mixed deck list where you're playing navy and CP9, then it all depends on your ratios and what you're playing heavy for. Because if you don't have the 4-drop Kuzans in that build, then I still think yellow has the advantage. But if we're talking about the pure navy smoker or the pure navy Lushi, then that's usually how the matchup goes. It's the 4-drop Kuzans are the main MVPs for both decks to see who's winning and who's losing. But alright, guys. Hopefully that I answered the questions. Hopefully I went through the deck list. If you guys have any anything else you guys want to see, if you want to see gameplay versus smoker versus yellow versus black, let me know. I don't mind posting videos about that. If you have any recommendations, please comment below. And then next weekend, I'm going to Kissimmee for offline regionals. I will bring my tripod to film some gameplay there. I am going to change my deck one more time, so wish me luck. And I'll keep you posted. Hopefully, I can break the curse of the 8-2. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching. And Dave Rock TCG is signing out.